Hi, this is Dr. Sage Breslin, and this is Wisdom Wednesdays, my special series on my journey with cancer, video number 33, I think. So, you know, one of the thoughts I had been having today was about how incredible the level of support I've received during this process has been. And I get wonderful suggestions and resources from people that I don't know, people all across the world that I don't even know, who have just tuned into my journey and who are eager to help. And, I read through the suggestions, and sometimes they fit for me and sometimes they don't. Sometimes there are things I've tried, sometimes there are things I've never even heard of. And, it got me to thinking, what are the things that I do follow up on? What are the suggestions that I look at and I think to myself, oh my gosh, never thought of that. I'd love to take advantage of that. And what are the things that I look at and I think, ooh, no, that's not for me. And, it got me to thinking about, how do we discern? How many of you have tried a course, a program, a coach, a psychologist? And how many of you have tried more than one or more than a dozen? I think the longer I'm in this business, the longer I'm in this body, the longer I have been test driving things, and the more data I collect. But how do we know? How do we know when it's the right thing for us? How do we know when it's a fit? So I was talking to a client of mine, and we were kind of diving into this conversation. Look at the little kitty. Visitors from everywhere. How do we know when the thing is a good thing to do for us? How do we know when it's a scam? And, it seems to me that there are two sources of data, at least two. Let's just call it two, in our kind of immediate research of a thing, right? The first thing is we've got to be able to trust our own device, right? Our own intuition. If we're speaking with somebody and that person, we dial in and we think like, gosh, this just doesn't resonate with me, or I don't know how I feel about this, or this just doesn't feel like it's a fit for my body, then we have to trust our tuning device, right? If we're clear, if we are a clear tool, if you will, right? If our measuring device, if our tuning fork is sending a clear message, this is not for you. And we have taught ourselves how to trust that level of intuition, then that is a really valid a source of data. But remember, I said clear, right? Because sometimes we feel like we're getting a clear message and it's our fear speaking, right? And the fear says, don't do it. Okay, but if that is sort of an old trigger for you, or an old story, an old narrative for you, you got to be able to say like, okay, is this an old story for me? Oh, this reminds me of how many things I haven't tried because I was too scared. Okay, well, then we can dive deep on that, resolve it, right, and set it aside, and maybe then try something that is new or different than we've tried before, right? But if we've cleaned house and we are able to say, no, I'm not triggered. This isn't an old story. I guess I'll move away from the dog now. Life, right? Then I think we can set it aside and say, okay, no, this is really okay for me just to say no to this, right? Or yes, right? That's the other thing, or yes. So, what about that other source of data? Well, sometimes it's the person, right? It's the person who is pitching, and there's nothing wrong with pitching, right? I mean, those of us in business pitch all the time. It is how we introduce people to what we have to offer. So we need to also be able to see, is that person, can we trust that what that person is saying is accurate and authentic? And again, part of this is a combination of our tool, our intuition, and how that person is being perceived. Because if I'm with somebody and I am getting this really clear vibe from them that they're being true, that they are trustworthy, and it feels good inside my body when I speak with them, I am more likely to move forward with them, right? But if I am, I'll take, sorry to all the car salesmen out there, but I'll take the kind of age old, silly example of if you're with that car salesman who just is selling you a lemon and you get that smarmy feeling of like, oh no, this isn't good. All right, well, then you're going to walk away, right? Because your measuring tool and what the other person is putting out there is this is not good. This is not good for me. So, going back to the client that I was speaking with, I had to ask and she's somebody who does a lot of research, right? So I said, so your research was good. You did all the right research. You listen to your own measuring device. You listen to your body. You listen to your intuition. Your intuition was saying, this seems right, but there's something that's catching, it's not quite there for me. And I said, well, what about the other source of information? When you looked at this other person and what they were pitching, what did you find? And she said, well, the pitch was clean. And what she meant was the pitch was well rehearsed. So because it was well rehearsed, because it felt true, even though her tool said, maybe not, she went ahead. And at the end of the day, while she encouraged herself and invited herself to have a great experience, so of course she did have a great experience, but at the end, she realized what her body was trying to tell her. And that was that this was just a business. This was a course and program designed to make money for the other person and really wasn't focused on what her goals were. And so while she allowed herself to have a great experience and to get what she needed out of it, she realized that trusting her tool, trusting her own tuning fork was so important, and even more important than what kind of data was coming through the other person. So we always want to make sure it's both, right? Sometimes we're the untrustworthy source because we've had trauma or we've had these issues that get in the way, and sometimes they drive us around to do something or perceive something as not accurate or not for us. And the other source of information is how authentic is that other person? How much can we trust what they are presenting to us? Sometimes what they present sounds perfect, right? It's all perfect on paper. It's sometimes like online dating. Oh, it looks so good. When we look at it on paper, but at the end of the day, our own tuning fork, if it says no and we're swiping left, we just got to trust that too. So I'm going to just invite you to see, where in your life have things been presented to you where you either distrusted your own tuning fork, either for the right reason or maybe for a reason of your own history. And when you have been presented with somebody else's message, has it been clear? Has it been authentic? And of course, most of you know that this is where I dig in. This is the source of breakthrough work. This is what we do. This is why authenticity is so important. It's not just how authentic a relationship we have with ourselves and our measuring device, our intuition, but also, how clear are we? How clear is the message that we present to others? And how clear is the message that others present to us? So as leaders, we need to be able to not only know and trust our own intuition, but be clear in our message, be authentic with our message. Make sure that we say what we mean what we say, right? And if we are doing that, if we do that part of the job, then people are going to experience our methods, our message, our communication clearly and be able to know, like, and trust us much better. And if we can do that for ourselves, we can also give that to our team, our families, our friends, our loved ones, so that they too can operate from that space, right? So that all of that communication is based on clear connection. All right, this is Wisdom Wednesdays. This is Dr. Sage Breslin. Thank you so much for being part of my tribe. Have a great day or evening.